What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Masters of Evil podcast. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike, and welcome to the first episode of the Masters of Evil podcast. And I'm here with my boys. Gentlemen.
I'm Tom Theestian on Instagram.
I'm Doom Wizard, or Alan. Whatever, Doom Wizard's better though.
There you go.
How you guys doing tonight?
Doing good.
Good. So, well, thanks to everybody who's going to join us tonight. And so tonight's episode is just kind of going to be like, getting to know the good old boys. We're going to talk about like comic books, obviously, and why we like comics and the comics we collect and all of our favorite things that has to do with comics. I think in future episodes, you can expect from us to have, we're going to try and read a book every week and talk about that book and just like rap about what we liked, what we didn't like. But to get it going, we figured we just talk about ourselves because that's what we do best. And so obviously the typical stuff, like and subscribe and hit us up on IG if you have any comments or questions or whatever. And obviously we're already joined by our good friend, Count Von Strange. Appreciate the love from everybody already. So let's hop right into it.
I want to ask first. I want to ask Alan where you got that Doom hood.
So I went to like my like one of the local comic shops, and it had like they had just got it in, and it's like it's a wearable mask. It's pretty fucking hefty, and they had it just there, and I saw it, and I was like, "Hey, is that the Doom mask wearable?" And they're like, "Yeah," and I was like, "I'm gonna take it." It's like $140. But if it hadn't been wearable, I would have not bought it.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna just buy the mask to fucking. It's like a little stand too.
So the cowl and everything came with the mask. It was like a whole piece.
Yeah. It comes like with this fucking like stand. You can like screw the top part of the mask onto it, and it says the Mask of Dr. Doom.
Nice. I had to know because I've never seen that in a shop or anything like that, so I didn't even know who put it out or anything like that.
Yeah,
so
I had never seen one either, and I saw it, and I was like, I have to have that. Like, why the fuck would I not buy that?
The tassels or the clasps across the chest just absolutely make it for me.
Yeah, no, it's Velcro in the back too, so like it fucking fits like snug as hell. It sucks too because my beard is so fucking long. It's like pushing my beard into my fucking face.
So the question is, during the coronavirus year, have you worn that into an establishment as your mask?
No, I have not. That thing is way too fucking hot to wear.
Yeah, especially in Texas, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, especially because I wear glasses, so I can't fucking see whenever I'm wearing that mask either. So like, it's fucking horrible. It's horrible.
It's hilarious. Anyway, so yeah. So this is you getting to know us, right? So let's dive right into it, right? Like there's obviously a bunch of news and shit that happened, and like we can save all that for later episodes or if we have time. But I think, like we said, like tonight we're gonna just talk about who we are, why we collect comics, all that shit. So let's start right from the top. Like that most cliche question is like, why or how did you get into collecting comics? Tom, you go first. You look like you're ready to answer.
It was kind of weird for me because it kind of went back and forth with age. The first time I ever heard about comics was through the Ninja Turtles cartoon when I was a kid. My brother used to collect the toys, and then I started buying the toys, and now we have the box of them somewhere in this house still. But I found out that they were comic books before all of that stuff, before the real movies, before the cartoon, all that. And so I started looking into that kind of thing. But again, I was pretty young, and so I didn't get very far with it. So I stopped for quite a while. I always knew about comic book style, movies when they started coming out, because like those X-Men movies and the Spider-Man movies were out. I was pretty young. But it was one Christmas, somebody bought me a trade of The Walking Dead. And I was like, oh, cool. There's like horror stuff in comics. I didn't know that. And it just like snowballed from there. And I found like, good things and found a lot of crap things. But that's kind of where it all happened.
That's interesting because like, I think, like that typical answer of like, oh, I used to read comics and then I got back into it later after whatever, college, girls, men, whatever the fuck it is. Right. But it's funny that you say that The Walking Dead got you back into comics, because that's similar to me as well. And not that it was before the show for me. Like,
right.
I think I started reading The Walking Dead like weekly, like around issue 40-ish. And that's where I got like hard back into it. Right, like I always had that box of comics. So like same thing, right? I read comics because I had an older brother who collected. It was all Marvel stuff. He didn't collect anything else. That's all he had. So it was like tons of Spider-Man and Daredevil, and X-Men. That's all. Like everything was X-Men, and I would like have the comics, but I also grew up watching all the animated series, all that stuff. So like I kind of like comic books were just that, right? It was just like campy or like ridiculous comic like superheroes. And then when I rediscovered comic books later in my life, it was like, oh, there's all this other stuff that's indie comics, but it's not Spawn, which nothing against Spawn, but it's just another superhero comic. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's interesting.
What about you, Alan?
I would say I never really like fucked with comic books when I was younger. I was super into like when I was younger, I had like Ninja Turtle toys. Like I had like the whole sewer set up. I remember having this communicator that I went to daycare with one time. Did y'all hear that? I don't know what the fuck that was. I had this little Ninja Turtle communicator that I went to school with one time, or it was like a daycare or something like that. And I remember this kid taking it from me and telling everybody that it was his, and it like really, really pissed me off. But I want to say like I first got into comics by I want to say like the first thing I read was The Watchmen, and then I kind of just was smoking weed all the time, not really caring too much about comics. And I think the one thing I started reading was I dated this girl, and she had the trades of The Boys, and so I got reintroduced into comics from The Boys, and I think it was a good place to start getting back into comics with.
Right. Yeah, it's really crazy how much is out there, and that you wouldn't know it unless you went looking most of the time. Nowadays there are a lot of indie things that are pushed a lot farther into the front, compared to Marvel and DC like it always used to be, with Image and how much Image blew up and whatnot. So that's really great. But yeah, again, if you were back in the early, I don't know, I guess before Image happened, it's really hard to find a lot of those weird little indie publishers and stuff like that. All it is Spider-Man and Batman everywhere.
Yeah, and I mean that stuff existed, right? But it just wasn't. I mean, it wasn't Image. If it was Image, it'd be the third largest publisher, right? Yeah. So, I mean, that's tough. But like, yeah. I mean, obviously, like my love for comic books right now, like what I value those Vertigo books, right? Those mid to late 80s Vertigo books is just some of the best stuff, in my opinion. I don't know. So I jumping around here, like you got into comic books or back into comic books, like out of all this, like as you know, however long that was, 5 or 10 years ago, like what are you still currently like? What are you reading right now?
Yeah, I can't tell you the last time I read a comic book.
I
I've
think
been
that's normal, right? For people
Well, no,
like us.
I've been slacking so hard, man, and then I start like I mean I just have tons of shit that I've picked up and I've read some stuff, but I kind of like I'm trying to go like a different route. Like I haven't been picking up new shit lately, and I've been I've been shit. I've been buying like a lot of Tales of Suspense and Tales of Astonish and shit like that. Like I want to buy like for me, like I'm tired of just buying this filler ass shit. I want to buy books that I'm actually like interested in that have that, like I don't know. I'm burnt out on having tons and tons of boxes of comics that are just gonna, pretty much be worthless or
Yeah.
read one and done kind of thing.
I get that completely because I go back and forth with like I want a pull list because I want new things to pick up on Wednesday and I want to read these stories, and there are great stories that are coming out and things like that. But again, all of this kind of stuff it's a fun story to read, but then I end up selling them all to my friend who is like an eBay reseller. I don't keep 90% of anything I've purchased after, the date of 1986 or something. Otherwise there's no reason. Like I said, there's great stories and I read them and they're good, but they become secondary market for me every time.
I mean, it also kind of depends too. Like if I'm super interested in the shit that's coming out, then I'll keep it. Or but other than that, like I don't want to just. I mean, before fucking coronavirus, I was probably spending $50 every week, and it's just gotten to the point now where I'll read it and then I maybe won't pick up the rest of the fucking run, and then it's like cool, I'm stuck with the fuck. What was the Hulk book that came out? Not sure, like the Immortal Hulk.
Yeah.
I have Immortal Hulk like 1 through 25, and then after like 12, I quit reading it. So I keep getting all these fucking issues that I'm no longer reading because I'm kind of just like burnt out on it. Even though everyone's like, it's the best, it's the fucking best thing ever you'll ever read, and I'm like, I get it, man, but I can only fuck with Hulk for so long before I'm just like, cool, he's super strong. He can beat everybody up. Like, wow, great. Like it's just I get burnt out on it quick.
So do you find yourself that like you just rather wait for the trade to come out? Like, will you buy the trade? I guess.
Probably not.
Yeah.
To be completely honest, probably not. I mean, the last trade that I bought was the Thor God of Thunder because I want to reread it, but it's because I only like I like gore. But that's besides the point. Like that's the only reason I'm buying bought the trade was just to read that again. But like with stuff like Immortal Hulk, and I mean, I think I bought Absolute Carnage or something like that as well. But it's just, it's just I'm gonna read it once and then it's gonna sit there for the rest of my life, and
yeah,
I'm not gonna do anything else with it. So it's just kind of like taking up space. I'm running out of fucking room for comics.
Sure. That's my biggest problem is trades get me all the time, and that's because I like to read. I like to sit down and read a whole story. Yeah. So when I go into my local comic shop and I pick up my pull, I try and minimize the pull as much as possible, but some things just get me. But every time I go in there, my bill ends up being $100 or so, because he puts this new rack of trades out, and he is a big supporter of independent books. He has his own, he's a cartoonist, and so he puts out his own book and things like that, and I've known him for years. So he always orders those offshoot books that you don't see in a lot of stores. And so I walk in there and I look at those, and I end up pulling 2 or 3 off the shelf every single time. And that fucks me. But again, they do take up a lot of space, like you were just saying. So,
right, and I mean, like, I'll buy. So, like, from a collecting standpoint, right? Like, I'll wait. Or I mean, absolutes really are kind of here and there sometimes, but I'll wait for a good hardcover of something, right? And I'll purchase that. But sometimes, like, reading digitally is just so fucking easy and simple, like, and cheap, right? When Comixology has fucking, you can buy like an entire trade for like $1.99, right? Because the
Mhm.
whatever reason, it's the anniversary of the book or something. It's just so like so simple and like so compact, and I can do it like wherever the fuck I am, you know.
That's one thing I feel really bad about, because there's a
know.
couple different websites that you can read comics completely free, and they come out the day that they're released. And so there are quite a few times I catch myself going like, I just want to read this. And so I'll read it knowing that I'm not putting any money into the industry that I care about so much. And I feel bad about that. But a lot of times it'll also be something that I'm going to purchase in my pull already, but I just want to read it, and I'm not going to get to the shop for 2 more weeks, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I live 45 minutes from my comic shop, so
Same.
yeah, so like I don't, yeah, right, absolutely. And I mean, I have a ton on my pull list, and I have like a short box and a half sitting upstairs in my reading area that I just don't fucking, I haven't read yet, right? Like I keep up with certain stuff. I mean, I do keep up with a lot of the indie stuff and a lot of the like mini maxi series stuff. Like that stuff I love. It's the weird thing is, right? It's the ongoing stuff that I just don't have the time. Like I'll let 15 issues build up before I read anything.
Yeah, but you know, are you at that point? Do you stop that and then pick up the 3 trades it would have been for those 15 issues, you know, and save yourself $10 per trade? Or
I know. I also feel like this sense of like guilt, like you said, like about to my look to like the shout out to Comic Boom in Keene, New Hampshire, right? Like I've been going there for 15 years, right? So I don't know, it's tough. Like every time I'm like, hey man, don't add anything that I didn't ask you to add. He's like, yeah, but there's going to be a bunch of shit that's coming out that you're going to want to read.
Right.
And I'm like, I know. Okay. Just at least ask me which cover I want, and then we'll go from there. But like, it's all of a sudden you go in, right? And it's like, oh, well, this fucking anthology came out and that was a $10 book. And then I give you all the cardstock covers because you want the variants, and those are all $5 a piece. And it's like, oh,
right.
What are you doing?
But at the end of the day, there's also something about me that loves having like single issues of comics. Like I'll pick up a trade. Like there's the comic shop that I used to go to. This guy would always suggest indie stuff to me, and I would read it, like the trades that they have, and then I'd be like, you know, do they have single issues for this? He's like, well, it's like kind of hard to find, and I'm like, well, you know, if I like something, I'd want to have it single issues, as opposed to having it in trade. But there's a lot of stuff that I picked up that eventually goes to trade that's just like, you know. I mean, but I'm also like, I like having like those, like, you know, 1 or 2 books in that run that are like, you know, like a key, I guess, or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Just to clarify on what Juan's saying here, like, I don't buy the, you know, the normal cover and the variant. It's just like with DC, they have those cover Bs, which used to be, they were like open order, same price, but now all of a sudden they have a cardstock cover and they're an extra $1. And like, so I go in and it's like, yeah, you want the cover Bs, so here's the cover Bs. They're all an extra $1. And I'm like, oh, I don't want the cover Bs anymore. I just want the regular cover.
The hard part about that too is that those cardstock like covers that big publishers will do are fantastic quality, because let's all be honest, DC and Marvel's quality in printing and books is fucking garbage. You know, you look at Image and their books are thicker, they have less ads, the paper quality is better. It's just all around a better experience. And so I don't feel as bad when I have to pay, you know, $1 more or something like that for something like an Image book. But yeah, I completely agree with you. It's pretty sad that we have to pay extra for Marvel or DC just to get a book that won't show up damaged.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, like, it's all those little things, right? Like, they do have ads. They have ads for like the owner's other books, and it's at the end of the book. It's
Mhm.
not like a Snickers commercial in a fucking 2-page spread
Yeah.
slash page. It's like, oh, I started reading this thinking it was a fucking part of the comic book. It's a Snickers commercial.
I would love to know how much money, like, say that just even the big two or one of them, it doesn't even matter, how much money they make on being able to put in bullshit ads like that from, little random companies. How much profit are you really getting? Like, is that keeping you afloat, that it has to be in there every single time? Or do they not want to pay a writer or an artist to supply, 28 pages worth of story instead of 22 and then filling the rest with ads? I don't know who could tell me that, but I'd love to know.
No, I feel like that's like there's a personally, like, right, when you look at it, like, first of all, artists, like writers or whatever, but artists are like, it's hard enough for them to keep up with the books that they're doing, right? You have double shipping every month, every 2 weeks. Batman, Spider-Man, Superman, whatever. They're coming out every 2 weeks, right? So it's like you get an artist for like, if they complete a full arc, I am blown away that happened on time.
Yeah.
So like you have that aspect, right? Where can the artist even deal with drawing 52 pages in a month? Producing that much, and then the other side is absolutely they have to satisfy whatever whatever agreement they have with Snickers or fucking whoever else, right? Like they have that contractual agreement to put this many printed ads in their book.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So it's funny though. I mean, I like Alan said, I love single issue comics. Like I there's just something that's so much more satisfying. Like,
but it gets out of hand sometimes, man.
Yeah, it does. I would say it stays out of hand for me.
No.
Go
ahead, Tom.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I've gone back and forth to where like I've had a storage unit that was literally for my stuff because my own home did not fit them and I had too many comics, to where now all of my comics fit in my closet, and I've gone back and forth with that. I've done that a couple times where I just kind of go, yep, I have way too many fucking comics and I have to condense them down to this many, and then again it gets out of hand. And so I totally get it, because I love being able to pick up that issue or search through that box and find that one book you can look at, and it's so beautiful. But I have definitely gone back and forth with having to get rid of stuff because I can't fit anything.
Yeah, I want to say like last month, I'd bought a collection of like 1,500 comics, and it was already way too much room for comics, but I ended up wanting to keep like 20 or 30 comics from that collection, and then I just have all these extra comics that I'm like, well, they're like dollar comics, like what the fuck am I going to do with them? And I have like this big wooden chest that I used to have my record player in, and now they're just filled with comics that I will probably never look at for forever.
But like what's the point of doing that, right? It's like almost like those hopes and dreams of like, am I going to pull a whatever out of this, if it's like a 80s 90s comic book, am I going to pull a bunch of ASM 300s or something out of here and make some money or finally get that book I've been looking for, right? Like, why else? Nobody buys a comic. Nobody walks into a garage sale and says, let me buy your 5 boxes of comic books unseen for any other reason than to hope that there's something in there.
And I'm sure very rarely, I mean, I'm sure like what is the guy Very Gary that does like the videos where he goes and buys the collections, and I'm sure there's collections that we don't see him buy where he's just trash.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean,
well, he actually will post those. Like, he posted one where it was like, this is what it's like when you spend. It was like $5,000 on a comic book collection, and he didn't pull one key out of it or something.
Yeah,
But he also just got back a Hulk 1 graded 6.0 or something like that.
Yeah.
From so right there, that's a $20,000 comic book.
Right.
So I'm sure he's doing good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You take that chance, that whole like storage wars kind of like lifestyle, buying things blindly. You never really know, but if it pays off that one time, it could take care of you for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's if you're, if that's how you're doing. I don't know what he does for like a job. But I know he spends quite a fucking amount of money on comics.
I
buys
don't
collections and shit.
Yeah, I mean he's a con seller, right? So like he goes to cons. He's got tables worth of dollar bin books. He's got keys all over the place. I'm sure he's got a day job.
Oh, for sure.
I'm sure
he owns a chicken farm.
I'm sure that like after the chickens are all put to bed and the hens laid their eggs, like this is just him making some extra gold on the side, right?
Yeah.
Like he absolutely seems like one of those people that's probably smart enough. He knows what he's doing. And
me buying a collection is me wanting one book out of that, and just not the person not wanting, like, you can't cherry pick the collection. You got to buy it all, or you get nothing. And I'm like, cool. I saw fucking one or two, 3 books that I wanted. That maybe it'll make up for buying the collection, and it doesn't. And I get stuck with all the fucking books.
And I mean, that's the hardest part too. Is like learning to sell books. Like to whether it's to sustain the habit or to get that next book that you want, like that's such a hard thing to do. Like I recently sold a bunch of books, and I'm on the hunt for 2 very specific books, and it was like the first, like I sold some big books, and it was hard. Especially when
I instantly regret selling books as soon as I sell them.
Yeah. So I sold an Ultimate Fallout 4 9.8 that was signed by Sarah Pacelli. I sold it for $1,300 when it like boomed, and I'm like, I paid like $150 for this book total. Like I'm stoked. I just made so much money, and then like a few months ago, it's going for $3,500, and I'm just like, fuck. Why did I do that?
Going back to that, like Walking Dead getting me into comics again, I started collecting like the single issues, and so I had 1 through like 80 something, and the TV show was going to come out, and issue 1 was like $200, $300, and I was like, oh man, like being a new guy in comics at the time, I was like, that's fucking fire money right there. That's amazing. And I sold that shit for like $220 or something like that.
I'm gonna
and
get charged for days.
3 weeks later, it was $1,200, and I was like, what the fuck just happened? I was very upset with myself, but you never know, I guess.
Yeah,
that's what's crazy about collecting, man. Like, whenever you could buy a comic for cover price, hold on to it forever, then a year later or 2 years later, it's a big character now. Like that was the Venom #3. Yeah, I bought like the 3rd print, and I had 6 of them. I bought them for cover price.
I remember just seeing in the chat you pulling another one out, being like, dude, I knew I had these 2, but I have another one now.
Well, I had 3 of them that were bagged and boarded, and I remember like selling them because I think they were going for like 180, something like that, and then they popped up a little bit higher, and I was just like digging through my shit, and I'm like the worst about bagging and boarding comics. Like I had 3 other ones just in the fucking box, unbagged, unboarded. And I was like, cool, I'm going to sell them. And, they came, they looked fucking pristine though. So I ended up selling all of them. And I'm like, cool, now it's even more expensive. And I'm just like, it's crazy, man, with collecting. You buy a book for cover price, and the next day it's a fucking $400 book because some idiot in fucking his basement is telling you, hey, this book is fucking hot this week or whatever. Like,
right.
But I mean, there's that's kind of a downside to collecting. But at the same time, like if you're reselling shit, you could just be some fucking Joe Schmo who likes fucking money, who doesn't really care about your comic books, and it's gonna be like, you know what, this fucking book's I paid $10 for it, now it's $200. I'm gonna sell it now and get that fucking money, man. Like, Yeah, Rob's a fucking idiot in the basement.
I would love to know what book that is, Scully.
Yeah, I mean it's tough, but like I know for me when I grab that book, I'm not even going to think about those books ever again. Like I love Miles Morales. I think he's a great like superhero. He's something new and different, and I hope I get to watch him in 15 more movies moving forward, both animated and real life, right? But I don't really give a fuck about that book.
Right.
You know? And ultimately when I have a Famous Funnies 214, a Buck Rogers cover from Buck Rogers. I think I'm wearing the shirt. Am I? Yep,
You are.
the shirt. All right. I had to check. I wasn't sure. Frank Frazetta cover. I'll never think about that book ever again in my life. Like I just don't care. So like me personally, I've been doing that. I have a couple other books. Like I have a Silver Surfer #3 graded 9.0.
Mephisto?
Yeah, first Mephisto. Like I'm like that book's at that grade. The last GPA was like 3,800, and I did not pay anywhere near that amount for that.
But are you gonna sell it or are you gonna keep it?
It's so hard, bro.
It's a cool character, so it comes down to like how much you love that character. Like
I bought that book because I love that character. I love villains. I love anything that has to do with like hell, demons,
with
evil. Yeah, devil. Yeah, anything that's like fucking that kind of like even that like quote unquote like I love horror books. I mean, Mephisto. It's not like horror, but it is. It fits that genre for me, right?
Yeah.
I love flames on a cover. I love like red covers. I've got a bunch of them around me right now. So, but fuck, man, I could. That's halfway to a Fantastic Four #1.
Yeah, where does the money lie with how much you care for something? You know.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Yeah, that's good. Let's talk about this more. So. That I mean we're already halfway in, right? We're already like 30 minutes in, not to say it's halfway, but
I'm
so
all in.
What you're all the way in. Yeah, well we don't feel you, so that's sounds about right.
I think that's our fault.
Y'all wouldn't be so loose.
A bunch of loose bitches on this one.
It's long, it's not wide, so of course you
so let's talk about like let's talk about like what you like to collect currently, and what's your favorite thing you have right now? Favorite book, statue, piece of art, pop figure, dildo, whatever.
You go first. I want to hear about your dildos.
All right, so hold on. Let me pull this one out.
You're not prepared?
I got 12 inches of anal beads in my asshole right now. No, I'm joking.
Jesus.
So I picked two things, right? And I think this is like indicative of probably it won't surprise anybody. My favorite book in my collection, and I love this cover. I've had it reproduced on a blank, and even though it does not portray him in his best suit, so Showcase 17, it's the first appearance of Adam Strange.
You like Adam Strange, bro?
I do. Do you know that?
That's so weird.
Do you know that I like space people and
so
stories about sci-fi stories?
Strange space people.
Strange space people from other worlds. I do. I enjoy them.
It's super weird.
So this is like, and so the funny thing about this is Carmine Infantino is one of my favorite artists of all time, right? Batman, Flash, but like his mystery in space stuff, his showcase stuff is the best in my opinion. His Adam Strange, him and Murphy Anderson, like their work on Adam Strange is some of my favorite comic book art ever, right? And this is Gil Kane, so this isn't him, but I still love the first until he pops up in Mystery in Space until issue 53. It's all Gil Kane art, and it's great. And he's got the short sleeves. It's really fucking awesome art. And I love this book, and I'm stoked that I can own one. And then I have to think. I think my outside of like just specific to like that sci-fi, strange adventures, mystery and space stuff, what I really focus a vast majority of my time on is the golden age sci-fi horror genre. So like especially the famous funnies with Frank Frazetta, and specifically more than anything, what I've been trying to do is I buy as many LB Cole covers for Blue Bolt. And this is my absolute favorite LB Cole cover ever, and it's Weird Tales 114, and it's an underwater zombie. And it says swamp spirit, but like ultimately like the colors, there's like dead people in the ground coming up with chains. It's just everything about this cover is just one of my absolute favorite books in my collection. And so like sci-fi and horror, like those are the two things I love.
Is that, say, those two books, are those pushing your highest value books that you have, or is that just personal highest value?
That's
because I can see your first Swamp Thing, your first Constantine, your first Dead Man. I can see them all behind you. So are those two that you showed me, are they the highest in financial value or just personal?
right now, currently, my highest in financial value would be probably the first Mephisto at 9.0. And my
Thanks to WandaVision.
Thanks to WandaVision.
All those rumors.
And that book was going up pretty steady before that show came out.
I was very curious because I wish I paid attention because in the middle of WandaVision, everyone fucking thought it was Mephisto. Even I was leaning that direction. And so I was wondering if that book went up in price, and then when the show ended and everyone was like, oh, no Mephisto, if it like kicked back down a little bit. But
it was steadily going up, and then like it like really went up during the show, but it has not dipped because I think that people are still like, he's going to show up eventually. Yeah. And it's just the trend right now, right? Like, I mean, there's so many books that are just going up. Every book is going up, really.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I think probably if I personally had to put $1, like what I think should be the highest valued book in my collection, I have a Moon Knight 9.4. You know what I mean? A Werewolf by Night 32.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that book is I won that at a raffle for $30.
That's the way to do it. We were
that is not the way to do it, by the way.
We were all in St. Louis the other weekend, and Jeff pulls down Swamp Thing #1, and he was looking at it, and it was $200. And it looked okay. It looked pretty nice, but he was looking at it and he's like, I don't know if I should spend $200. And I looked at him and I was like, I don't necessarily want to influence you one way or another. I was like, but I bought a Swamp Thing graded 9.0 for $90 on eBay because someone wasn't paying attention. I was like, so you could wait it out and you may have the same luck that I do. It's like, or you can spend $200 right now. So it's up to you if you want to hold out, because that book, along with The House of Secrets, has been going up a ton recently. After that show ended and everything, it's been slowly just keeping going, but you never know.
I think books like that, I mean, there's nobody out there like on the hunt for Swamp Thing 1 in high grade raw. Sure. I don't like, not the way we would be, you know what I mean? Like the average, like fucking, let's talk about how we hate speculators, right? The person who is like buying 15 copies of the third print of Venom 3. I don't know who would that be in this chat, but but whatever. That like that's not like they're not going after Swamp Thing 1 in high in high grade. And to see those books rise makes it's like good. That makes me feel like people appreciate the character more and are like getting into it.
We can hope.
But is that what it is, or is it just like, hey, every comic book is expensive now, so I'm just gonna post this comic book for fucking more than it's worth? And yeah, it's so hard. Like I feel like you'll still find those shops that like have a Swamp Thing 1 wall book that's like $90 and it's probably reasonable for the grade. You know, I don't know.
I mean, it kind of depends on them, and like it also depends on like the comic shop that you go to, because you have the comic shops that are, you know, every week pulling the fucking top 10 books.
Yeah,
as soon as they come out, because they have the app too, and they know like, oh, this fucking book is, you know, $3.25, but now it's worth $20 because some fucktard, you know, the eBay sells or whatever. Like it's just, but you know, like you can go to most. Like I text Juan today and told him that I found a Fantastic Four 18 for $70, and it was actually $71. And I was like, hey, you can come down on this book. I mean, it was a little bit lower grade, and I was like, hey, you know, it has tape on the staples, but I mean, it was still attached. I'm not really sure why they had tape on the staples, but the guy's like, well, you know, 2.2 is going for $90 right now, and I can come down $1. I was like, all right, that works, man. I'm just happy he didn't, you know, charge me $90 for the fucking book, but I was just like, man, it's kind of in bad condition. I thought maybe I could get a little break on it, but
right.
But you know,
I almost give him more credit for literally coming down a single dollar.
Well, he
being like, I can give you $5 off. He was like, I can take $1 off.
Yeah, he's like, I like even numbers, so we can go to 70. And I was like,
yeah, cool. Let's even this out.
Yeah, let's fucking even. And I was like, all right, cool, man, whatever. Let's
you only got 80.
Right there.
I don't have a $10 bill to give it to you, so let's just call it 70. That's funny.
But I was stoked. I had never really fucking seen that book out in the wild, and I had one before, but I was too afraid to take it out of the bag and board because I thought it was gonna break. So I was just like, man, I think I won it off eBay for like $18 or something like that, and it was fucking super low grade, but it was still attached, but the cover was like chipping really bad, and I was like, I'm not taking this thing out. I'm not even gonna switch bag and board. It's gonna stay in this thing forever, and I ended up just selling it. But I was like, man, whatever. But I always like buying shit like that. I mean, how often do you see fucking, you know, lower grade Fantastic Four out in the wild for, you know, pretty cheap? But
or that early in the run. I mean, anything under issue 50 in the wild like that's not a wall book too, or it was up on his wall. It had to have been, right?
No, it was just in a box.
In the box,
like the little box behind the thing. Like
that guy is a real seller.
well, it's more of like a tabletop place.
Oh, that's awesome.
They do tabletop stuff, but they have a bunch of comics just kind of like throughout the thing. But they have some wall books that are not really, not really wall books. But then they have some like older stuff in boxes behind the counter, and I just wanted to look at them because everything else they had was kind of shit. Yeah. And I was like, man, I fucking love Super Scrolls. Why not fucking spend $70? You know, because awesome. I can only imagine the book's going to go. I mean, I was looking on eBay, and like a low grade copy was sold for $160. So I was like, you know, fuck it. This one's in better condition than that. So I'm paying I'm saving $1 and paying $70. So I'm gonna fucking buy this book. You know, and I'm sure that book will only rise because they keep having fucking scrolls throughout the fucking MCU. So
yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Some asshole will put out a YouTube video about this is why the Super Scrolls are coming in the next movie.
Secret Wars.
Secret Wars. We're all Mephisto was in the background. So let's talk about your favorite comic books.
Alan.
Let's go, Alan.
Well, I actually, whenever we said we pulled two, I was like looking through more books, but I have to go with Preacher.
Ooh,
I actually got this book for $1,
Signed.
Not signed.
No,
but I got it for $1 at half price books, and then I gave it to Steve, and he got it signed for me by Garth. And then going back with the boys, another.
Right.
Yeah, I think I got this book for like $5, and I sent it to fucking Steve, and he got them both signed at the same time. So I actually had another one that was signed, but it didn't say to Alan that I actually sold. So I was like, cool. But I mean, I fucking love Preacher and the boys, of course. But I'm also going to throw up another one because why not? I love Tradmore, man. Tradmore's fucking art is crazy. I will always push this book onto somebody. Some lady got tattooed one time, and I had the trades at the shop. And she's like, I kind of like comic books. And I was like, yo, you should read this. So I gave her the first volume, and I probably will never see it again. But hopefully she read it and fucking enjoyed it because it's a great story, man.
That was some of the first like image stuff that I just ventured out and knew nothing about whatsoever. And I read it, and yeah, the art was just ridiculously awesome. And so, what was it? He did 3 different arcs, right? Or is it just 2?
I think 3? It's the Strange Talent, the
Legend,
and then I think like something Life or something like that. Or I honestly can't remember.
Yeah,
I can tell you right now. Actually, hold on.
Do that. They were really good. All 3 of them were really good. And it was, like I said, it was one of the first ones that I branched out and was like, I'll just try this, and read it. And I was like, holy shit, this is crazy. And then there's been talks about it being picked up for something, everything is being optioned at this point.
Right.
So.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Strange Talent, Legacy, and Legend.
Okay.
But also, I know everybody loves Donny Cates. You should definitely read this Interceptor.
Oh.
If you like vampires.
I have not seen that, but
yeah.
You told me about it, and I just haven't got there, and I feel like a shithead for it.
Heavy Metal Magazine put it out.
Oh.
It's fucking. So it's like a mech suit. So it's like the Earth is overrun by vampires from global warming, heating up the Earth, and all these vampires are frozen. And they melt, so they take over the Earth, and like they leave. Like all the humans leave Earth, and they send this girl down in a mech suit to fight these vampires. It's pretty cool. I like it more than Kate's stuff now, but
yeah,
definitely worth checking out for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's hot as fuck in this room that I'm in.
it's this thing that you got on.
Yeah, no, it's just like legit hot in here. I'm in a closet, so it's
but you got a hat and a hood on. Like, come on.
Just hot.
Tom.
Yeah.
I can only imagine what Tom's going to talk about.
Tell us
what are we talking about? I forgot.
What do you like, Tom?
What's your favorite books, Tom?
Objectively, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Objectively, what's your single favorite book in your collection right now?
Right now, I would say right now, and Remy is probably right in his same boat for him. But I was given a House of Secrets because I started collecting Swamp Thing quite a few years ago at this point because that whole story summed up pretty quickly is I was going to a shop and I was helping out at the shop a lot and I was getting like paid in books and I was totally fine with that. But I was collecting like everything. And it was one of those things where just I bought every single book that came off the shelf. And I noticed everyone else around me had a specific thing they were very interested in. And that's what they worried about. That's what they collected. That's what they talked about. And I was like, that's kind of cool. And I felt left out because I just bought everything. And I was like, yeah, but I know about all this stuff. And like, it didn't matter, So I was very open to ideas. And the comic shop co-owners, his wife, showed me Swamp Thing. And I knew nothing about the character whatsoever. I was given.
She showed you? I was accused
of sleeping with his wife by him, and that's a whole other. They also owe me $7,500, so we could just go on. I could have an entire podcast.
Is this the same person who like that fucked you over with all
Yeah.
the eBay fees and all that shit.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh,
Fuck
yeah.
that person.
Yeah. So
Fuck you,
anyway,
whoever you are, cocksucker.
so
The masters of evil hate you.
And I fell in love with Swamp Thing right away. I liked the monster aspect. I liked the hurt, broken man aspect to it. And there's a lot of cool things. So I've been collecting Swamp Thing for quite a few years, and a friend of mine gave me a gift, and it was a House of Secrets 92. So it's the first Swamp Thing. I got it back like just a few weeks ago. Because Louise Simonson was doing a signing at a private signing at CGC, and in my travels and in my learning about Swamp Thing, Bernie used Wheezy, as she goes by, as the model for the cover, and so that's why I sent this in to have her sign it, because it meant a lot. Being given this by one of my best friends, who is still one of my best friends, I wouldn't, like, if my house was burning down, I would grab this and then I would grab my dog. You know, it's one of those things to where it's just like, this book could be sold for quite a bit, even at a 2.0. It's not a great grade, but it's totally fine because it was a gift. It was a gift from one of my best friends, and so it'll always hold something to me. Like the first 10 issues of Swamp Thing, I have each and every one of them signed by Bernie Wrightson and Len Wein. They're not the greatest copies, those first 10, but they're my copies. They were the first ones I ever purchased, and I've been slowly upgrading them. But those signed versions, I physically handed each one of them to Bernie and Len, and it's something that it will always stick with me because the memories to it are just too fucking deep.
Yeah, you know, it was hard for me to leave that book off. Like when I thought about this objectively, right? Like all those books, like even Constantine, like Hellblazer 1, like I love that book so much. Like all of every character I love about, or makes that every character that makes me love comic books is in those stories, especially the earlier stuff. Well, not the earlier stuff, but especially the Alan Moore stuff, right? Like Phantom Stranger, Dead Man, John Constantine, all these people. Like to leave any of that off for me was like so hard, right? Because and I went from like, I looked at this more of like, I think like as you did, right? Like it's something that meant something to me. Like when I open up Blue Bolt World Weird Tales 114, do I think it's the best comic book that's ever been written? Absolutely not. But
right.
The cover, the art, the colors, the lettering, the way Weird pops up, the characters in it, the fact that I bought that book at you know, I have on top of all the other LB Cold covers I have, but that I bought that book the first time I hung out with a bunch of like Steve and all those guys, like at Baltimore, like that adds all that shit to it. So like I appreciate that as well. Like it's easy to say this is my highest value book.
Yeah.
But I like that we all had like a little different thing. Like Alan went with like,
well, my dead grandmother worked at the half price books that I bought the Preacher one from. She died shortly after I bought the book.
I was gonna ask, was she dead and working there at the same time? That's pretty fucking cool.
Well, whenever she died, she rubbed her titty across the book, and so that's why it meant something to me. I don't know. I mean, I thought we were just talking about comics that we like, not fucking backstories about how our dead friends gave us books.
You know, and like realistically, is this the best Swamp Thing story that's been written?
No, right? Of course not. Yeah,
it's not. You know, it was an introduction. It was a character they were trying out to see if it would stick, and then DC decided, hey, write more about that. That's awesome. You know, but when Bernie,
realistically, they just kept sneaking it in until it became something.
right.
You can't get rid of it.
But when Bernie passed away after being able to meet him a few times, that last panel of House of Secrets 92, the if tears would come, they would, as Swamp Thing's walking away, losing his wife and everything, like looking at that now and knowing him and knowing I was able to meet Bernie and Len multiple times, and they were both two of the nicest guys I've ever met in comic books. And that panel fucks me up at this point. Like I can't just look at it as a story now. I relate it too much to the guys that put so much into it that it fucks me up nice and good.
Yeah, and like Matt said, right? It's short, but it is super fucking sad. I mean, I feel like if you could wrap up Swamp Thing in like a few words, it's like it's fucking sad. Swamp Thing is consistently sad.
It is. And that's 100% why I think I fell in love with the character is the fact that human aspect to this big monster person about how all he wants to do is be accepted and to love people, and he can't. And it's just fucking upsetting all the time. And, you know, some people have taken that character in very different ways more recently, and that kind of bums me out. But there's been some fun reads here and there, but yeah, I want my big emo Swamp Thing back 100%.
Yeah, you know, like I agree. Like the Swamp Thing now is almost like he's almost like, and I love the newer Swamp Thing stuff, like the new 52. I loved it. I liked it. I enjoyed it. Maybe I enjoyed it because it's the only Swamp Thing stuff that came out, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
If I'm being objective, I understand that. But like, yeah, he's like a god at this point. He's like, fuck you humans. I don't need you. I am the green. And he's lost that element of being like, oh, well, I just want to get married and be a human, you know? Like,
he ran for like fucking governor at one point, and that was one of the funniest, like most just engaging stories I read and for a long time at that point. And, you know, Alan Moore with his anatomy lesson story about how Swamp Thing isn't Alec Holland anymore. All he is a big plant monster that has the memories of Alec Holland and this and that. It was a very cool new origin story, but it also takes away from that human aspect because now he literally is just a big monster that doesn't give a fuck about anything except for plant life.
So that's funny that you look at it that way because, like, that's probably, I mean, that's how I was introduced to Swamp Thing, right? Was Alan Moore. Alan Moore's one of my favorite writers, right? I love everything that he's fucking ever done, pretty much, right? Miracle Man is genius. I wish it was finished. I need it. Yeah. I need closure. But it's funny that you look at it like that because now that you say that, yes, that makes sense, right? But I didn't interpret it that way. I interpreted it as like him coming to peace with the fact that he won't be human again at the end, right? By the time it was done, he came to that peace. But the whole evolution of him realizing, you know, these bones aren't my bones, these lungs aren't my lungs, you know, what I don't know verbatim what it was, but like I feel like that was painful for him to go through that and realize like where other super, like, quote unquote superheroes or whatever supernatural beings are like, look at my new powers, I'm fucking invincible, right? Here I go, I'm gonna fucking kill you and don't fuck with me. And he's like, oh, fuck this, I'm not human, I just wanted to be human. And then by the end he comes to peace with that.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, but also it's like, you know, most people get superpowers, they're flying or they get super speed, they're not turning into a fucking swamp monster.
Right. So I liken it a lot to like the Thing, right? Like I love Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
And the Thing, I've always loved that character because he's just that misunderstood. He's a sweetheart, right? He's gentle and almost like not dainty, but like
right.
Just kind of like, you know, like
very fuckable.
He's fuckable, right? He's got
so
that
fuckable.
You know, like they said in Mallrats, you know, the Thing, his cock, is it rock like the rest of them? But I mean, that side of things I've always like, and it's not with like the rage that like you have with like the Hulk, when you think about like the Hulk, there's like this rage, and it's like mindless. He can change. He only lives half of his life like that. But with those kind of characters, Swamp Thing, they're just like that. They have the same mind. They have the same thoughts, emotions, but they're just fucking sad. All right, I'm sad now.
So are we going into what we collect in general, or are we going to save that?
Whatever you want to do. Let's keep going.
Let's go back to the Swamp Thing first. Remember how we were going to talk about the new shit this podcast? I actually had to go out because I was like, Tom, you're going to pick up the second one and read it, right? I hadn't picked up any of them. I hadn't read Future State or anything like that. So I had to go track them down so that I could read them, so that I could be up to speed with y'all talking about them. But I actually haven't read them.
No, I was just gonna say we're not talking about that because I haven't read them. I haven't read 1 and 2 of the new thing.
I lied to you. I've only read. I didn't read number 2. I only read number 1 because life got crazy and I went to St. Louis randomly. So,
but you read? Did you read the Future State stuff?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't read that, but I had to go out and buy the Future State shit. And I was like, yo, y'all got the fucking first Swamp Thing number 1? They're like, nah, that shit sold out super quick. And I was like, all right, cool.
Were you in Boston?
Yeah. I guess I was like, cool, I'm going to have to read this shit online and then just be like, yeah, I totally read that shit.
Right.
I bought and owned that shit.
No, whatever, dude. I do, like, it's like Tom said, like, except for the fact that, like, I'll go on Comixology and if something pops up that I'm just like, I want to read this and I'm not going to make it to the comic shop, and it's like, it's either for whatever reason I want to read it. I did that with a couple of issues of Strange Adventures. Like, I bought that digitally because I just wanted to read it every week. And like, I still am buying the floppies, the hard copies, whatever you want to call them, because I'm invested in that character. So that's why I did that. Right. Yeah. It's interesting. So what did you want to talk about, Tom?
No, I was just gonna say, leading into my favorite, coming from my favorite book, just kind of leads into what my collection has evolved into.
Yes.
Learning about Swamp Thing, purchasing Swamp Thing, completing volumes 1 through 5 of Swamp Thing.
So can I ask you a question? Can I stop you for a second? So, like, let's talk about your recent collecting, right?
Okay.
So, like, not I read X-Men when I was 15 or whatever. How far into your recent collecting did you transition into being, before you go into this, like, Swamp Thing Bernie writes in?
Sure.
Was it like, pretty immediate?
Kind of, because I still had those moments where I was working at a shop, and so I was still being paid in books because I was happy to help out and that kind of thing. So I was still collecting a lot of things. But again, as I've said, that collecting became too much shit, and I got rid of 90% of it. So collecting Swamp Thing brought me to having to go back and learn about the original and read the first volume. It brought me into Len and Bernie, and then slowly but surely that evolved into more of Bernie's work and finding out a lot about Bernie's work. It's massive. Like that man did so much stuff. Len did a ton of stuff. He wrote so much. He edited so much. It's a massive amount. Both of them have like huge, portfolios or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, sure.
Len created the X-Men we all know right now. With Nightcrawler and, Warpath and Wolverine and, like the X-Men we think about, like Len did that, so Len, and a lot of people I feel don't look at that. He got passed up by people all the time. He was always at his booth and he was never busy, and you can go up and sit and talk to him all day long and he would love it.
So some would say between Roy Thomas and Len Wein, they created the modern Marvel universe. Like everything we know, like that has evolved from, they were the next in line after Stan Lee.
Yep, after Kirby and Stan.
Yeah, right. Kirby and Stan, right? After that, they were the first people to take those characters and make them some. I mean, not Spider-Man, right? Obviously, there's other people players in there, but for the fucking whole of like you have like Len Wein, Roy Thomas, a handful of other people like really did Marvel, and then then you have Len Wein over in DC at the same time, which is crazy. Like he was one of the first people that really like I don't know was going back and forth with a lot of that. It's
very much
Marv Wolfman, I guess, too at the same time, but.
Well, I could tell you stories about that too. But anyways, so
started on that.
I don't need to go in there. But yeah, so that brought me back to learning about these two guys, learning about what they did, that kind of thing. And I realized that Bernie Wrightson's work, whether it's writing, because he did do that, not a lot of people know, but he did do that. CJ's right. But
I've never
he's like, I don't have 2 kids. Never fucked in my life. The amount of work that Bernie has done in like fanzines, magazines, comic books, movie illustrations, TV shows, like we just Matt just learned the other day that Bernie drew the biker mice from Mars like designs, you know, and it's shit that no one thinks about, and it's massive.
Record covers, album covers, like
yeah.
I mean that's I feel like a lot of those older there's a lot of those older artists that do that, right? Frank Frazetta is the same way, right? Like you say Frank Frazetta, everybody's like, oh yeah, like in the comic community at least, right? They're talking about like Conan, yeah. He did Conan. It's like, well, he did Edgar Rice Burroughs covers for in the 20s, right? Like he was painting covers for sci-fi novels in the 20s. Like,
he was painting covers for L. Ron Hubbard's science fiction novel before he created Scientology. Like,
can we also talk about how fucking a lot of those Conan covers get slept on because
dude, it's so good, bro.
What you got?
Bro, they're just. I mean, you could just fucking.
If we're talking about favorite artists, man, I don't know.
I just mean in general.
I'm just saying, like.
No, I'm not gonna put it past you, but I'm just saying, like, I have a fucking stack of Conan covers. Let's just talk about like how fucking sick these covers are. Like, they're just fucking sick. Like, I mean,
when's the last mags too, right?
Yeah, I mean, when's the last time someone posted a fucking Conan book on the fucking Instagram page and like, oh, this shit slaps? No, I mean, they're just fucking.
No, they're dope. They're dope. I don't.
Magazines are the way to go, you guys.
Yeah, I mean, they're fucking
people get it.
I know.
They're right here.
I'm
sitting here with magazines.
I'm absorbed with spending my money on CGC. Like, I just have a list of books, and until I get those books, I don't know. I can't.
I'll send you some Conan books.
No, I love them. I've seen them. I've looked. Trust me. Like, I've looked through I've looked through a lot of it. I just don't care about Conan as a character. That's my thing. Like, I can appreciate the art, and like that. Like, as much as I love the artist.
Oh no, Conan sucks.
Yeah, I just don't like Conan.
Let's be real. Conan sucks, but I don't know if it's like me being an artist myself, but I just like. I mean, the art is just fucking killer, man. It's hard to like not appreciate the art as opposed to like the character itself. Because I mean, how many times have you bought a cover because you like the art on the cover?
Every time.
Yeah.
Every time.
That's Robert's lifestyle. He doesn't read a book. He just buys covers.
50% of the time, it works every time.
Yes.
All right. So what? While Alan's digging through Conan comics,
So
and I cut you off. What were you talking about?
I'm just going to show you a couple rights and things that I brought, stuff that I really enjoy. This book is super cool to me. It was on a list of things I wanted to find for a very long time. It's a rights and cover, but again, it's a small cover because his art is only on the bottom section there. He's got a story in the back of it, a Halloween like rhyming story that's really awesome. There's tons of great art in this. I would consider this a fanzine, not even really a magazine, because it wasn't a big publisher. Yeah, Abyss #1.
Abyss #1.
Yeah, it's a fantastic book. I actually got that from Roots of Swamp Thing. He hit me up one day and he was like, "Hey, are you looking for this by chance?" Because every time he finds rights and stuff, he always hits me up and making sure I actually have it or not. But besides that, if we keep going with magazines,
He's fighting a werewolf.
He's fighting a
goddamn werewolf. When's the last time you were laid up with a lady fucking holding your leg as you were standing on fucking bodies holding the battle axe with a skull in the background?
All the time. Clearly,
if that wasn't Sam Raimi must have saw that and was like, "This is the Army of Darkness cover, 100%." Because that's all that is.
I mean, when's the last time you fought a fucking green ape? Never.
When's the last time Teddy Roosevelt went back in time and killed dinosaurs? Fucking never.
Yesterday?
But hot damn. Do I have that in my collection? Yes, I do. That is the point. Wrightson took me down a whole new stream of finding artists, so many. Wally Wood is a big one for me, and that's a lot of sci-fi stuff that I know you appreciate, Mike. I brought reprints in St. Louis. It's ridiculous.
Weird Science, and like I think I made the joke last night when you were like, whatever the name of the comic is, because it's like science fiction, fantasy, weird tales, number 14 and 70, volume 4. But it's like, it's crazy that there's volume 4 of some of these books that came out in the 50s. And it's like weird science fantasies from the future of the past with 16 artists.
They still look cooler than today's day.
And those are good stories, man. Like it's tough to read that stuff sometimes because it's just so dated, right?
Yeah.
Like reading a sci-fi comic in the 50s is tough. But like if you put the campiness to the side and like even the language obviously that they're using, right, is it's from it's white dude 50s language, right? Like it's very specific. But when you put all that shit aside, a lot of those stories are fucking like brutal and or depressing, or just like they're pretty like fucking topical for their time. So like if you can like look at it and like leverage it with like the year it came out, like that shit is, most of those stories are like everybody dies in the end or like is left stranded. Like nobody, it's not like good shit is happening in these stories. Like that's what I love about it. Like it's brutal. It's great. I don't know.
All right. Where are we at? We want to.
We can. I mean, so we talked. I some of the things I put up like was like what is your like favorite run or ongoing story in comics? Like is there a specific, like, even if it's in like Preacher, even if it's just Preacher, like Preacher is my penultimate. That is, what for whatever reason it is, right? Like, what is that for you? 2 issues, 8 issue, 50 issues. What is the thing? I guess if I want to be cliche, right? If you could take one story and that's the only story you had, what would it be? I don't want to phrase it that way, but that's kind of what I'm asking.
Who's ready?
I would say either Preacher or Hellblazer.
Yeah,
and that's for me. I mean, I'm sure Tom's going to say some Swamp Thing or something like
that. It's hard. I need like a top 5 kind of situation.
Yeah.
Because
is that a genre thing for you? Because like for me, whenever I think about like I want to pick one from each genre. That's why I like a top 5. You know what I mean?
Kinda. If I was to look at the books that I've read, probably more than anything is the first run, the volume 1 of Swamp Thing. I've probably read more than anything comic wise. A close second to that is probably either Joe the Barbarian by Grant Morrison or Punk Rock Jesus by Sean Murphy.
Two Sean Gordon Murphy stories,
Yeah,
right?
actually,
He
they
drew
are.
both of them. Yeah.
Yeah, he did. He wrote Punk Rock Jesus as well, but
Are you diabetic?
I am not.
Okay.
But I know a lot of people that are.
Yeah.
And reading that story, like I think I said it on the Grail Keepers podcast, like that story made me cry.
That's so tough. Yeah.
I also I grew up having a very distant like father due to like prison and quite a few other things. But so watching him go through his story with an absent father and then realizing that his father like left the deed to their house there for them. There was a lot of parts of that book that really got me going. And I've given that trade to more people than I could count. I've repurchased it and just given it to people because I felt like they should read it.
That book is phenomenal. That's definitely one of those books that you can hand to a non-comic reader as well. Like I agree with that sentiment.
Right, because he's a child that starts hallucinating due to having a diabetic, episode or trip or whatever you want to call that. And that's when the more comic-y things kind of happen. And it's because it's a child. That kid is looking at his toys and imagining them as real people and helping him out and that kind of thing. So if you're new to comics and stuff like that, I feel like it almost kind of like slowly guides you into the more like superhero-y kind of things halfway through. But it's a great story.
I mean, so recently, right? Like something I can't parse out like any one thing. If like there's like Watchmen is something I just love so fucking much. Like I love Alan Moore so much. I love everything about him, everything he writes. Miracle Man.
He's a crazy, like I believe in the mystic arts, bad shit. Like,
I think I read his stuff at a time in my life. Like I was, like I was in my like late 20s, I guess, mid to late 20s or whatever. And I don't know, I just fucking love it. And I always, it's stuff I can reread always. I think it was on that balance. Like, I mean, he created a whole new way to write comic books. We know that. That's, but I honestly have to say right now, like, if there is something I cannot get out of my head, and I hope Tom feels the same way about this, but over the few years, Rick Remender is one of my absolute favorite fucking writers.
I thought you were going to say Tom King, and I was going to fight you.
No. I love Tom King. But I can't put like Mr. Miracle is great. I love that, but it's not enough. There's not enough of it for me to say this is spectacular. I think it's brilliant. Don't get me wrong. Like I think it's Vertigo, in my opinion.
Fair enough.
It's new enough. It's new Vertigo without the black label, whatever the fuck it is. Anyway, but Rick Remender, everything he's done, Black Science, all the way through, Low, Strange Girl, just fucking all of it. But Deadly Class, man, I relate with that book on every fucking note. It hits everything for me. The music, the drugs, the being a fucking scumbag, the redemption, the friendship. I just can't get over that book. And I think it's something I will always love for the rest of my life. And
the fact that
go ahead. Yeah, go.
I was just going to say the fact that I started it when it came out, I still have a #1 somewhere. And I fell off of it literally just because like life happened and it was nothing else more than that. But I just never went back because I had already fallen off. And again, it's hard for me to start a book using like buying floppies and then start reading trades after, or be missing its chunk and then start reading again. And it just feels really weird to me. So a lot of times I just don't go back. And then watching the TV show, I sat there and realized, like, what the fuck have I been doing this whole time? Like, I have a Deadly Class T-shirt from when the first book came out,
Yeah.
you know, and I feel like a fucking poser wearing that at this point. But I watched the show and realized, like, how fucking good it was. And then when it got canceled, it got shopped around, it didn't happen. And Remender was like, if you want to know the rest of the story, fucking read the book. And I was like, that's the guy that I need to pay attention.
Remender's so awesome, man. He's,
you know, I've read Low, I've read Fear Agent, you know, even his artwork he was doing Last Christmas with Brian Posehn, you know, like I would love to see him draw some more. It was awesome. You know, he did a NoFX t-shirt randomly.
Yeah.
You know, lots of random shit. Remender's been around for a long time and he's always been in that punk rock roots. Yeah. I appreciate that a ton. But I literally just bought, like 3 weeks ago, as I was messaging you, I bought all 9 trades of Deadly Class, and I think I'm on trade 4 at this point because I haven't had a lot of time. But the first 3 that I read in like 2 days because I couldn't stop reading that. And
it just it just gets better. Like it's never been a comic book where. Like if it's one of the few comic books in the past however many years, if it's coming out on a Wednesday, I'm making that fucking drive.
Yeah.
I'm picking it up and I'm going to sit down and I'm going to fucking read it. Or I'm just buying it on my fucking iPad and I'm reading it. Like,
it doesn't happen a lot these days.
It doesn't happen, right? I mean, and I love Rick Remender. Like he's probably my favorite modern comic book writer.
Are you reading Scumbag?
Scumbag's great. Yeah. Issue 7 is probably out today, I think.
Today.
Yeah, so I'm not there. It's over the top, right? It's exactly what it, oh wow. Is that issue number 1?
Yes.
It is. Look at that. Good for you. I
have to get up. I appreciate that so much that it was just randomly in the box next to you.
Most of my comics are in the closet, and then I have a few select long boxes that are like right behind me. But
there's just comics everywhere in this closet.
Yeah.
That's the way it should be.
And I put like the ones that I like most in this like 2 short boxes that are right next to me.
Yes, and this call out in the chat. Last Days of American Crime. I have the deluxe hardcover. It's upstairs on my. I think it's upstairs on my.
Am I tripping, or did they turn that into a movie?
Yeah, no. So it's supposed to be a movie on Netflix.
That's the one where they like.
I don't think it came out yet, though. I don't know.
So where they like control people through like the fucking like the buzzing sound or whatever.
Yeah.
Like all like yeah. It's on Netflix.
It came out already. Fuck.
I think so. Yeah.
I guess I gotta watch that.
We got to be excited for, speaking of Sean Gordon Murphy and Rick Remender, Tokyo Ghost is coming out, which is amazing. Apparently that's been a thing that was optioned like 3 or 4 years ago, and they didn't say anything, which is great, obviously, because sometimes things come out and they get canceled, as Remender has experienced. Right. But I'm very excited to see that turn into something on the big screen.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely one of those guys that he writes his books with the purpose of them being optioned. Like you can definitely see that in what he does. I mean, I think he has those. I don't know what's the term, like glamour piece or whatever they call it. Like low is like.
Low would be a phenomenal visual experience.
It would be so tough to do, though. Like,
it would have to be like an Avatar fucking movie.
Yeah,
you know?
That's exactly what it would be. They'd have to put a lot of money into that movie to make it. It's such a good book. It just ended too, so I don't know if you read the ending.
I did not read the ending. It was another one that I read halfway through, and then life hit me.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about that because I saved up like the last 10 issues and read it all the way through, and it was
nice,
fantastic. So, how about you, Alan? One comic book trade, absolute run issue. You got to read it. You're sitting in Mars.
Sitting in Mars?
You're sitting on Mars. You're sitting on Mars all by yourself for the rest of eternity. There's only one book you can have.
I would have to go with Preacher, man.
Preacher.
I can kind of relate. I mean, I not really relate, but whenever I was 15 years old, I wanted to grow up to be a youth pastor, and I was homeless at the time. I doesn't follow preacher at all, but I mean, I I was very religious, but I ended up just like doing a bunch of drugs and
Look at you now.
like a hard life. So I mean, it was just I just really like the story, and I really like how they adapted the TV show as well. Except for I fucking was not a fan of the ending of the show.
That's what I was going to ask if you enjoyed the show, because I know some people were like super against the way the show played out, and it was one of those things where I actually watched the show and it made me go back and read the books because I knew they existed, but I just never gave them the shot. And the show made me enjoy that.
Well, I mean, and to me too, for like, I mean, there's always going to be those diehard fans that hate any kind of adaptations of anything, but it's like you can't take everything from a comic book and put it into a TV show. That's like the people that love The Boys are like, oh, The Boys is a fucking great TV show, and I'm like, yeah, but you should read the fucking comic. The comic's way more fucking brutal, way more gruesome, way more like, and it's like you can't take everything from a comic and put it into a TV show. I like Preacher. I want to say like the last season wasn't my favorite season, but I mean it was still a good show all in all.
Yeah. I've only watched a few episodes of it.
Really?
And not again, that's more of the life thing for me. But yeah, not out of any. You know what I really want to watch? I hear great things about is Lucifer. Like I want to watch that fucking series. So it's like 5 seasons deep now.
Yeah, no. So I've actually watched all of Lucifer.
Is it good?
It's good in like a corny way.
Well, you've watched all of it, so it's.
I've watched all of it. Like my girlfriend was like, we should watch Lucifer. And I'm like, all right. And then she'd come over and stay for like a week or so, and then she'd go home, and I'd be like, hey, I watched the whole season without you. She's like, well, why'd you do that? It's just like one of those kind of like addicting. Like it's a kind of like a crime show, but kind of like he's Lucifer, so it's
Right.
It's definitely worth watching.
Didn't it get canceled like once or twice and got picked up on different sites? And it had, from what I remember, it had a whole little like kerfluffle in the middle of it to where it had to like go to Netflix from something else and back and forth or something.
I'm not sure because I caught the ass end of it. I think I caught like season 4 where they were already on Netflix, and then they were starting to do season. Like I think they just recently put out another like part 1 of season 5 or whatever, and then they're going to release more episodes. But also, I mean, Sandman's a good fucking series too to read.
Sandman's amazing. I mean, the first.
You know, it came out today.
I saw it.
The Sandman Lock and Key crossover came out today.
I'm waiting to buy it. I'm gonna buy the one that I'm gonna get signed for you.
Lock and Key is Vertigo. Is Vertigo originally?
Lock and Key is IDW.
IDW, right?
Yeah, so that was their jam. Yeah.
So that's on. So that crossover is a Black Label book then now?
It's technically not. Yeah. So what's happening is I think it's 3 issues are being put out by IDW, and then after that, another 3 issues are being put out through DC, and it's completing the story. And
okay, so it's like one of those read this book, then this book, then this book to complete the story. Okay, I got you. Yeah. That's interesting. Huh. It's funny too because IDW is fucking right. They're like writing a bunch of the YA stuff from Marvel right now. Like they're taking on a lot of those properties and stuff. That's good. Well, good for them. That's good. So I wanted to address something that in the chat real quick. Comic Crack said, "Do you think so? Do you get that impression?" I believe he's talking about what I said about Rick Remender about writing for the pilot. I don't think that, like, just to clarify, I don't think like Fear Agent, like Black Science, or any of that like earlier stuff, he was doing that. But I think if you look at him over the past 5 years, where it's just been like Tokyo Ghost, the one with the racing, the cars. What the fuck is it called?
Death,
Death,
Death or
dire,
Glory.
death or glory, die. Yeah, death or glory, or yeah, glory or death, glory or die, whatever it is. That one, and like Seven to Eternity, and like they've just been coming out. Like here's 6 issues, and then I don't write anything again. Like I've been getting from him. Like I think he's realized what he can do because he's so talented, and it's just like there's been like 6 issues of a series, and then I'll come back and do one every 6 months, and like that is a continuous thing with him. Low, he stopped. Like Low was every month,
Yeah.
on point every single month, and then like it was like a 6-month hiatus, and then 1 issue quarterly, right, every 3 months. It took forever because he was doing all this other stuff. So yes, I don't think he started like that, but I think that bug got him, that itch, and he's like, I'm going to make the fucking money, which he should do. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But like then you have people like Mark Millar, whatever you want to call him, Mark Millar, who's just like, I'm writing fucking Netflix shows. Make that money, whatever. I want that money.
Yeah, I was very surprised to see that they made a full TV show out of
Jupiter's Legacy.
Thank you, because wasn't that a 6-issue story and that was it?
Well, no. I mean, there's Jupiter's Circle, which was 12 issues. I'm not going to remember this correctly, so somebody can feel free to correct me in the chat. But I think that one was like 12 issues, and that's like them young as Golden Age characters. And then there's Legacy, which that was another 12 issues or 8 or something like that, I think. There's volume 1 and 2. I'm pretty sure it was like 12 issues on each side. I read it all. I know that for sure. I have it all. I just don't remember. It was a long time ago. But and so Legacy is like the new age modern comic book characters. There's it's like it's shit. Yeah, there's shit. There's a lot of shit. It's pretty fucking brutal. Like it doesn't get like gory brutal, but it's like there's shit. It's a great story. I love it actually.
I 100% think that, like, Preacher being on for 3 to 4 seasons or whatever it was, and then the boys getting picked up, it's passing on that, like, option to have these brutal rated R kind of comic book stories and things like that could not ever be a thing.
Well, I think also now with fucking Marvel and DC having, well, I guess not DC anymore, but they have HBO Max, but all these, the big ones are having their own streaming networks now. What does Netflix have to, Netflix and Hulu and Amazon have to develop, indie comics.
Yeah. And I appreciate that so much because I don't want to see another Batman movie. I don't need to see that. We've seen that for how many years? It's obnoxious. And I get that they're characters people love and they want to watch them and things like that. But fuck, man, there's so many books out there that are so good.
Well, wasn't there that show on Amazon, the Hunters movie, or the Hunters TV show, like where the guy they hunt down the Nazis that come.
Yeah,
that's based on a comic book as well.
Yeah,
but it's like a lot of these indie books they're picking up, turning into TV shows, are doing fucking amazing.
Yes, I agree. I think that like they've proven the point that you don't have to know who Superman is. Like even within comic book movies, right? Like it doesn't have to be a comic book character, It's like people are coming to this shit. Yeah. But I so appreciate it too because like I don't hate Batman the way Tom does. Like I know Tom actively hates Batman. I love Batman, but I don't want any more Batman. I don't want any more Batman movies. I'm good. I want a fucking Phantom Stranger, like crime mystery movie. That's what I want. Like I want a John Constantine, like real fucking brutal magic, crazy demon laden with Entrigan, and I want I want anybody that's not normal. Like, I'm stoked about potentially the Gotham PD thing or whatever it is, right? It's supposed to be based off of Ed Brubaker's whatever it is, the Gotham series he wrote. Like something new, different. I know those are all Batman characters or DC characters.
You lost me, dude.
You heard you say Batman too many times and he just fucking zoned out.
I mean, I don't know. I think there's still like, I love, like, Invincible is a great thing that just came out. The Boys, all that stuff is great. I still want that, like, DC lore. I just don't want it to be like a beat 'em up. We don't need a beat 'em up like Batman movie. You can take the Phantom Stranger and keep it within the universe and make it just a fucking cop movie, you know, like a crime noir, something like that.
Well, isn't the Robert Pattinson one kind of loosely like, I know that they're doing the Long Halloween, but isn't it kind of like Batman Year One almost? Isn't it like right when he's starting out, kind of?
It kind of seems that way from what I've seen.
I mean, but he's still Batman. He's fucking
Gotham Central.
Yeah, he's DC's Iron Man, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Without the flying suit. I mean, I guess kind of.
Yeah. At that point, we're at about an hour and 40 minutes almost, and if you're still here, I applaud you because I'm barely here, to be honest with you. So I don't mind wrapping this up, and I'm going to throw that out to the rest of you guys and how you feel, unless we have anything else you want to talk about before we keep going.
No, I think this was a good episode 1, and I think the point is to keep it tight. We went a little long this episode, I think, but
it's our first time. We were excited to talk to each other and listen to any of the fantastic questions you guys had.
I'm also aroused, so
yeah.
If the boner lasts longer than an hour and a half, I got to go to the doctor.
Especially when you're by yourself. At that point, what are you going to do, man?
I'm not by myself.
Awesome. Well,
the voices are here.
Well, we appreciate all of you, and go ahead, like, subscribe to this channel as well as to the Grail Keepers channel, which is the guys right before us yesterday. They shout out us yesterday, gave us a shout out for our first show. We will always shout them out as well. They're a great group of dudes, also because I'm included over there. So I'm mostly talking about myself, but don't tell them that because they haven't watched this far into the video. But like and subscribe our video. If you have questions for us, if you have topics for us, shoot them over to us. We appreciate you being here. We're happy to do this. We have a great time, but always remember the Masters of Evil fucking hate you. So cheers to that, and we'll see you next Wednesday.
Peace out, guys.